Got it back. We have extra copies of everything. It's right there, yeah. It's down office. It's sort of, well, working soon.
I mean, she for all the other departments, so it's probably just tracking over right now on that one.
Research and.
Just correcting of the journal.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Very small, so where do you want to be? Or.
Do a update on
Maybe after the budget, we'll do it first, and then we pick up.
I think so. Or even one budget, right? I don't really have every issue. I guess they're really taking.
Okay. Oh, good, Ken's on it. Ken, is that on? Will you hear me?
You should.
I just realized I didn't check my email again later to see if you responded to me about the minutes. Did you have a chance to look at those? You're muted. You're still muted. Can you unmute, Ken?
And
For a second. Okay, okay. Say something.
I'm talking now. Can you hear me?
Okay, good. Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute again.
No, wait, I want to hear what did you look at the February 24th minutes?
I did, and I sent you back an email just 15 minutes ago when I first saw it.
Unfortunately, I didn't check.
And I guess there may be a difference in the accounting because those numbers don't coincide with the numbers that we've been tracking year to year when we had our year-end balances go through a carry forward. So
Well,
I think
we'll talk about it then when we get to the minutes. I thought if it was
okay,
fine.
but I think, yeah, I don't think we'll resolve it tonight.
Okay, well, if
I
that's
think
the
we
case.
need to sit down and figure out the difference.
Okay.
Well.
And was when I was me. Yes. It's all. I didn't dislocate me.
Wow, that's better, right?
I did my head.
It's been such
It was one of those foolish things where the door was here and there was ice in front of it. And I reached across, but lost my balance. It was a basement door. Not, wouldn't have ice in front of it.
Right.
But crazy. It only takes
I know.
tiny
I know.
slip. A friend of mine's mom seriously hurt. She got survive,
no.
but yeah. Fractures and different things. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. All right, enough of that. Go to cheerful things. Anyway, today was great.
I
Tomorrow,
know.
gonna be mild again.
Yes, yeah, I think it should get rid of the last of the snow, so I hope.
Are you crazy? You live in South Thomaston. We have lots more snow.
It's true.
It's gonna be a week
He lives
before.
south of here, right?
Yeah, there is a surprising, noticeable difference between the
Very much so.
snow in South Thomas and.
We need more than a day of melting.
At my house until April, for sure.
And it could snow again. That's
Right.
It'll be cold next week.
It's originally saying
This is-
6 inches this weekend, but now that's changing to sleet and rain.
No,
Thankfully,
well, better, maybe.
yeah, you could just stay and wait it out. It shouldn't.
Well, it feels like it's been a long time since we've been here because it was Zoom last time, but. And the words
It
are.
has been a while.
Yeah.
You're in person.
Right. Well, we had that very brief meeting.
I was here at the Conservation Commission.
5:50.
So that clock is actually right.
Break tonight. Might not even do that.
Christian. Send fact.
Were you responsive there, Brandon?
Oh,
That
yeah.
makes sense. I was just thinking.
I think we have an
At a
answer
certain
that's
point.
relatively helpful anyway.
Yeah.
So it's 6 o'clock, so we'll start the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I'll call the meeting to order. We'll have one adjustment, which is, I see Terry Brackett's here, I assume to talk about the junkyard issue. So we'll have you do that before we do the budget and everything, so you don't have to stay for the whole meeting.
Unless you want to.
Yeah, feel free. Do any of us have any conflicts of interest to report? No. And we have minutes from 2 meetings. Let's start with the February 23rd meeting. Aaron sent us those minutes. Did people have a chance to review those?
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody want to make a motion? Motion.
Seconded.
All in favor? That's 4. Brian's homesick, so hopefully he'll feel better soon. He's got the flu. And on the February 24th minutes, there were only the select board members and Irene here for this very short meeting that was the day after the blizzard, so that we could approve the warrant and hear the town manager's report. So I typed up these minutes and circulated these, and today I sent them to Ken Olberger because mentioned in these minutes are some carryover amounts for the Conservation Commission that relate to the purchase of Old Woods Farm and grant money that we got from the state way after, like over a year after the closing, which required some carryover amounts from 2 different fiscal years, not a straightforward thing. But Ken, do you want to just say what your issue was with what I wrote here?
I guess we've been tracking year to year what money we had in the regular account. And I've been sharing that with Tara and Irene every year. And the number that we had for FY24 to FY25 was a lot larger than that number. And then from FY25 to FY26 was smaller than that number. So I think we need to sit down and figure out why where there's a difference in the accounting. But I mean, we've been sharing those numbers back and forth every time we have an expenditure. So I don't
Right,
understand
so-
why.
My question for Irene is whether these numbers were total Conservation Commission carryovers or whether these were solely related to the Old Woods Farm money.
Both.
Well,
It was, essentially, there was
Sorry.
grant proceeds that came in to cover some of the conservation expenditures for Old Woods Road.
Right,
I went by the numbers that were given to me from Tara and Brandon regarding the expenditures for the fiscal year 24 and for the fiscal year 25. So I guess, Ken, you and I would need to get together. I will show you the paper that I went by. And then you can show me what was, where the error was.
Okay,
We can
Go
always,
ahead.
I believe that this is just to reappropriate the grant and the donations, because originally they were all put into the land acquisition fund at the time, which is not in hindsight the appropriate place, because they were for other expenditures to support the project as well, or to the Conservation Commission more generally, rather than the land acquisition fund, which is very restrictive. And so, but Ken, let's just set up a time to meet about this again, and we can all get on the same page.
all right, so we'll hold the February 24th minutes until we get corrected numbers. Because I know that was a challenging thing financially, because like Brandon said, there was money spent for professional expenses related to the closing. There was money the town fronted to buy the property. There were the donations. And then now we're figuring out, now that we got the grant money to help pay for it, where it all goes back where it belongs. So, thank you for straightening that out. And when you get the numbers, we'll plug in the correct numbers and then we'll approve the minutes.
But are the
right.
minutes?
I guess it's my understanding from Tara.
Go ahead, Ken.
I said it was my understanding from Tara that money that was left over from the donations and some of but primarily donations to the Old Woods Farm process was not going to move into the trails account, but had to move back to our basic account for future use.
Right, which is what these carry forwards are doing.
Okay. Well, I think that's just part of the funding then. So we just have to figure out, where the difference is.
Well, as far as, the minutes go, they're right.
It's what we did.
It's what's
Okay.
actually been done. You and I can
that
get
doesn't
together.
preclude them sorting out.
All right.
If something
Differences.
needs to change, we can make a change, Ken. If there's been
Okay.
an error, we
All
can
right.
make a change.
Well, then we'll vote on approving what we actually did do that day. And if it turns out we need to do something else, future minutes will reflect that.
I was not there because I was at the
That's right.
resilience meeting.
That's
so-
right. But Tammy and Steve and I were
Okay.
there.
I
So
move we approve the minutes from our
all in favor?
special meeting.
So that's the three of us who were there. Okay. Do we have any communications that we need to share from either select board members or Brandon?
No.
Nope.
Okay. And the warrant for the current expenditures, Irene circulated today. Did people have any questions?
No.
All right, then. Do we agree that we are authorizing the disbursement of $770,138.59 as listed on this warrant dated March 9th? Yes, okay, so we've approved today that warrant. Is there any public comment on any issue? Members of the public want to make any comments? No? All right then. Terry, if you wanna, I don't know if you have an introduction to his issue or just wanna have him.
Terry's he was scheduled to follow up on the Ripley Creek junkyard at the last meeting, but it was the blizzard, so it's here tonight.
Okay, on February 9th, I was here at the select board meeting. On February 10th, I wrote Michael a letter.
Is he the tenant or the property owner?
He's the junkyard owner, I guess we'll call him.
He's not the property owner, but he's the one operating.
And
The junkyard.
he lives at that residence, so. But he isn't the owner.
Okay.
And stated that, we, the town, wanted that debris cleaned up by February 24th. Or a letter of, a notice of violation would be written. On or about February 11th, Michael came in here and registered a vehicle. So he no longer had 3 vehicles unregistered, which constitutes a junkyard. However, the SUV was still extremely close to the bank of Ripley Creek. Michael came in on February 24th to discuss that he really couldn't clean up that mess at that point in time because it was frozen into the ground. And I told him, well, it would take a little while to write a notice of violation, and I would be checking with him periodically until we got that cleaned up. So on March 4th, I sent Michael a email, which I never got a reply to, saying that the town wanted the SUV gone.
That's not the one that he registered. It's one that is
No,
unregistered.
That's the one, that's not one that he registered. By March 12th. I visited Michael this morning, 7:45, got him out of bed. And we discussed the junkyard, the SUV, and he promised me, and Brandon knows he tells you what you want to hear, that it would be gone by Monday. And I told him that I'm gonna be visiting him Monday morning, it'll be Tuesday morning, and see if it's gone. If it's not, I'm gonna visit him every week until it is gone. I'm trying to avoid the notice of violation only because it's gonna cost the town money to do that, and it's gonna take time to do that also. So, if it isn't gone on Monday night, and you want me to pursue the notice of violation, we'll do that.
Well, I'm not sure that not knowing that we were talking about this, even though maybe I should have known that. I think whether you issue a notice of violation is in your discretion as the code enforcement officer. The select board can't tell you
Well,
what to do.
you need to be supportive of it because financially, it's gonna cost money.
Well, we're supportive of you doing your job, and if you, in your judgment, based on everything that's happened, that's the right course, and we have heard, the history of some of this. I mean, do you think that's a reasonable thing to say
Yes.
to Terry? We're supportive of you doing,
It
exercise
is your
your
call.
judgment.
Well, I noticed the violation, there's a list of criteria that has to be in it, and I would wanna run it by our attorney before it was sent.
And that, we appreciate your being careful that way. So, Greg had a question.
This is the first I've heard of this particular issue, but I'm just curious if there's a list of, as you just said, if there's a specific list of things that need to be met in order to issue the citation. Or a certain time limit from first notice to second notice or things like that. I would encourage us, if there's a protocol, to be good about following that, because I'm not the only one in the town who's been impacted by your judgment before.
I've been taking pictures, and that's part of the criteria, is taking pictures and documenting what's happening and that sort of thing.
We have a long documented history of this being in violation. What needs to happen now to, I think, formally issue the notice. That part we're not, or at least I'm not totally clear on, but I do think this has been going on over a year. We've tried working with him and being flexible, and and to try to save, tax dollars by taking that approach. I think at this point we've sort of run out of options.
Well, he's told me that he's looking at a place in Cushing, so hopefully that's where it's gonna go.
It was a place on Walston Road last spring, so
Well,
there's
some of the stuff he did mention that might go up there, but I told him that the canvas building needed to be permitted, as it's not permitted now. And that if he could keep stuff within that building, it would keep us out of there.
Mhm.
All right, well, let us know if there's an issue the select board needs to deal with.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. So the next item is to review the budget. And thank you. I think all of you are here.
All the
All
members
of the
away.
budget committee,
Everybody's here.
which is great. We appreciate how hard you guys work going through every little thing. So do you want to introduce and discuss your budget? Mr. Town Manager?
Sure.
Speech.
No. We'll say this year, like last year, the budget committee and I reached consensus in our process, and so we're submitting one joint recommendation rather than a separate town manager recommendation and separate budget committee recommendation. And so overall summary, there are some major projects going on in town that impact the budget. There are 2 proposed new hires. Which are new positions, I should say. We've taken over the Snows Point Lodge building based on the town meeting vote from last year, and so funding some renovations there while we continue to support it with fundraising efforts. And then the big one is getting our road plan back on track. So just a reminder, our plan is to pave 3 miles of road per year, which results in every road getting resurfaced once every 10 years. That has not been done in the last 4 years, at least. And so for a number of reasons, last year was just prices coming in much higher than we were expecting the years before that, trying to offset taking on the ambulance department and sort of slowed down the tax burden to payers, to residents. And so anyway, because of it, we're way behind, and as you all know, roads get more expensive if you have to do a more comprehensive repair, involve digging it up and addressing the base as opposed to just resurfacing it, which will keep water and moisture out and keep shoulders from breaking off, etc. So the increase to our resurfacing budget alone is about a 5% budget increase. It goes from $100,000 last year to $400,000 this year, and it is a 4-year plan that will get us back on track, which means that by the time the plan was complete, I expect that budget line could remain flat, because we will be then reducing our mileage back to 3 miles a year. And so with that being said, there's a 5% increase from the resurfacing line alone, 2 new positions, a new facility to renovate and manage, and we're looking at a total increase of 4.87%. So less than what the resurfacing would have done on its own. And so,
Could you just mention what the positions are?
yeah, one of them will be keeping Erin on as an employee of the town. She has been working as an island fellow for the last couple of years, and has been an incredible return on investment, and is critical to multiple projects going on in town. And so we are, and she's willing to stay for at least another year or so. So-
And also the comprehensive plan included a recommendation that we have more planning capacity and grant writing capacity, so that is consistent with the plan.
Correct. And then the second position is another employee for our roads and property maintenance department. As you know, right now it is Steve Jarrett and a pickup truck, and the town has taken on more and more sort of responsibility in the property maintenance department. One from taking on Snow's Point Lodge. We have a new public landing that has a green space with it as well. You know, a park. We've got a canoe rack on the marsh. We've got, you know, we're behind on our road plan, which means that we've got, you know, more miles of roadside cutting to do over the next few years. And so that's where that position will live. And my hope is that it will also help multiple departments. And so, you know, right now, Ashley, who is a department head for Parks and Rec, spends a lot of time weeding baseball and softball fields as well. And so if we can cut that time by half and get her doing the things that
Much as she loves it.
yeah, right. And lots of time, you know, Ryan spends lots of time in the summer at Port Clyde Landing, with it being a new facility, both to try to help enforce parking. He was setting up sprinklers to keep plants watered at the Overlook Park there. And, you know, watering the grass and, you know, weeding. And so things that, again, it's a big peninsula so for Ryan to be spending the majority of his time in Port Clyde is tough, and that will free up some of his you know, capacity elsewhere. And then again, just helping Steve with the roads and property maintenance. You know, one of the pieces that has been was funded last year and is recommended this year is some equipment that will be shared between solid waste and roads and property management. And that is to allow us to bring some of our smaller work in-house, you know, things like shoulders and whatnot, you know, one-off jobs that will, one, save us money, and two, allow us to respond to them a bit more time within our own control. And so having another person in that department allows us to do some of that work as well. So any questions about the overall summary and the 4.87% increase? Just going to pull up Irene's email. This would increase the mill rate by 0.314. So, or an additional tax of $3.14 for every $10,000 of the property's valuation. So a property valued at $250,000 would pay an additional $78.50 a year. Steve had asked for a figure like that, and that was the best we could do on sort of short notice. I'm gonna
Not knowing the school.
right. Well, that's the other piece.
For the county.
Right.
Yeah.
I do expect the town to be less than a third of the overall you know, tax commitment. So
Right.
just for where we sort of fit into the larger picture of things. Susie, anything to add?
You might want to just mention that everybody's getting a COLA raise of 2.7, I believe, and then we cranked that up a little bit for merit to 3, except for a couple of places where you felt like responsibilities had altered, and so a couple people were getting a slightly higher raise.
That is correct. Yeah, and I'll highlight those when we get to parts, but that's good context as well.
Yeah, I think that's really the only other big assumption that we went in with.
Overall, would you say that it's a pretty modest increase in the
I
total?
think it's
size
a
of the budget?
miraculous increase.
Very.
I think for what we're taking on, it's, yes,
That's what I was thinking. How did we do this?
He's good,
I mean,
and she's good.
it's some restructuring of stuff. It's looking at, where we can shift things and department heads being flexible, for that. And so, yeah, I'm normally, if you would have listed out those projects, I would have thought we would be well over a 10% increase again. And we were able to find some ways to make it work. All right, so we will go, department by department. Again, if anybody here wants paper copies or some up front, I'll again project it on the screen as well.
Copies here.
Mhm. And I will just highlight some of the sort of major or unordinary changes. But if anybody has any questions, just interject at any point.
Thank you.
Everybody up there's got one.
We got-
You got it?
Anyone else?
So Tara is one of the positions that I'm recommending an increase above the 3%. Tara is the, solid waste department head. So yeah, sorry, this is line 5102.
Second one.
Oh, yeah.
Not only is she the solid waste department head, but anytime I have family members who are very, civically driven, it involves, Tara to be in a supervisory role. And so my mother is the cemetery sexton, for example. So anything involving the sexton, that brings Tara in. And these are all additional responsibilities that she's taken on.
In addition to being backup when you're up.
Right, correct.
Just a reminder of what a great staff we really have here.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. I've said many times. At first, just because I thought it was, pride for the town. I've said that I wouldn't do this job anywhere else, but also because I think the staff that we have, it must be much harder anywhere else. We've got a really good team. Workman's comp, so line 5202, you will see this line have some pretty drastic increases and decreases this year. And this is because it is now being accurately budgeted based on the nature of a position. So for example, all of us in the town office do not encounter all that much risk in our day-to-day, which is why you see the 88.5% drop in workman's comp. Whereas in the fire department and harbor master, for example, you'll see an increase because the likelihood of, an injury while on the job is more likely in those departments. There's you see 100% cut to office supplies, and that's just because it has been combined with general supplies. So this is lines 5301 and 5302.
It's not like you don't have any more office supplies.
No, we were trying to separate, well, is this pen an office supply and this toilet paper a general supply? And I just think it doesn't matter. They are supplies to stock the building.
Sure.
So simplifies
Yeah.
budgeting and tracking for us. The internet is down 50%, but that's just because that's what we are forecasted to spend. I'm not sure. It's just been over budgeted for a few years.
One thing I was wondering about, you're probably gonna wanna have internet at Snell's Point Lodge. We anticipate that at some point there'll be meetings held there and stuff. So just something to think about.
Maybe for next year.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Based on where it's at now, I don't know that we'll need it this summer. I don't know that it will be critical. And so, yeah, I think next year is
Gotta get it usable.
right.
That's a good point though, Jane.
Mhm. You'll see a large software increase on line 5362.
Double.
again, this is just, recoding some things, you know, we have a trio software, that essentially every department in the town office uses. This is where your property valuations are. It's also how we run our, registrations, anything like that. But it was broken out through all different departments. We essentially just pulled it out of the planning and assessing departments and put it into the town office, because everybody uses it.
So again, this is sort of shifting budgets around.
Right,
It's not,
yeah.
not a literal in doubling of the
Exactly,
expense.
exactly. We're just tracking it in a different department.
Yeah.
Insurance is just another one that has been over budgeted for some reason. We can't figure out why. This is what we're on track for both this year and what we spent last year. And so again, I'm not sure how it ever got so high, but that's where it is now.
A little bit of good news.
And then the printing cost is up because we have to enter a new printer lease, and that has costs associated with it. That's just the equipment rental side. Any questions on town office?
Is that something that towns normally do, lease equipment like that?
Yeah, very
The
few purchases, because
printers,
then
yes.
it comes with maintenance and, automatic resupplies of toner and things like that, so. The maintenance is the big piece. So if our printer goes down, we put it back up typically within a day, where it's tough to find that type of technician elsewise. Although there's a chance that maybe we can find a better connection in the future as well. So, were there any questions on town office? Overall, this is a 2.1% decrease, even with some of the the raises and whatnot in there, just by tightening up the budgeting to be a bit more accurate to what we've spent over the last couple of years. I will say, just a note on that, I think that there were sort of some leftovers. I've noticed different budgeting styles from different managers before me. I think that a couple managers back, the approach was to budget high with a lot of cushion, and then at the end see what's left and maybe kick some back to offset next year's commitment. I just feel like with taxes continuing to rise, and us taking on a noticeable gain by adding an over $1 million department, and we have resilience work in our future, all of these pieces, that I felt like it was the responsible thing to do, to just budget much more accurately and tightly and only raise what we need. So there are some holdovers and things like insurance and whatnot that are still popping up. Line 5107 reflects an increase to the stipend for select board members. This was recommended by the
You guys get a raise.
budget committee.
Eureka.
It will now move to $205 a month for select board members, with the chair getting an additional 20%.
Don't spend it all in one place.
So strange, because when I ran for this position, I just figured I'd be a volunteer. Like when I first got a check, it's like, what?
And you guys hadn't had a raise in over a decade.
That's probably longer, but that was the
Probably.
last meeting.
It just seems like for the amount of work you guys put in, we were happy to raise this small piece of money.
Appreciate it.
There's you'll see a large reduction to line 5362 software. Again, that's what I was just referring to in the last department. It's just moving it into Department 1. And then line 5960 reval reserve. This is really why we were able to do the bulk of the projects that we were for the increase that was needed, we were able to take, almost $170,000 out of the reval reserve. We have some money left in there beyond what the contract outlined for the price, and that will help with, if we need to contract our assessor to put in more time immediately after the reval or any other sort of associated costs that come with actually rolling it out that we can pull from there. And then this puts us on pace to be ready for another one in 10 years.
I had meant to ask Irene to print out the reserves, how much is in all the reserve accounts, which I know the budget committee saw, but the select board hasn't seen, so maybe
I
you
can
could,
email that in the morning.
yeah, you could send that to everybody. So that we know how much is in there. I mean, not that I don't trust you that it's enough. Cause I do, but I know one thing about that, we had talked about them doing the personal property valuations.
Mhm.
And you had enough in there for them to do that too, right?
Mhm.
Cause I think we did sign a contract with them to do that.
Yes,
Okay,
that was only a $6,000 figure.
I know, which was shockingly low.
Well, this is a little off topic now, but I have a feeling that they may not have realized that we've never done it before.
Well,
They didn't sign that contract.
they should have asked. I mean, we definitely weren't
Won't they be
trying to pull
surprised?
one over on them.
Yeah, but my guess is that they assumed that there was, a foundation to go off of. And
Be shocked if they thought that.
I,
Because
most towns have.
Most do it.
I
We
know
are
that's
being-
okay, but we had been through so much, about whether we were gonna
But they
do
don't
it
know that.
and,
Yeah,
all
I
of
don't
that,
think they
so-
do know, so.
all right. Well,
I got a blank slate to work from.
Right.
well, they're literally visiting every property anyway. They're going to properties that have business equipment, so. But we'll see.
I know that it would have cost us far more than $6,000 to do it in-house.
Yes,
So again, this department is down 49.3%, again, largely due to the reval reserve. The reason the reval reserve was so high is because we only funded it for 2 years.
Well, we had a little before,
Well,
but we were
sorry, yeah.
vastly
We had-
underestimating our expense.
We had a couple $1,000s in it every year.
and then it was what is it?
Almost
330?
400,000
Yeah,
or something.
367 or something like that.
Yeah,
And so the $25,000 mark that remains in there was still far more than we were doing year to year up until these last couple of years. And
and
again,
we'll probably have to jack that up a little.
we may need to increase it slightly as we get closer to the 10-year mark and get a quote back. But I don't think that we're gonna have to do this type of
Well, we won't have to do 200,000.
right, exactly.
We might
For-
wanna bump
for
it
back-to-back
up.
years too.
Well,
Right.
Mhm. All right, Department 3 planning, line 5103. This is Aaron's new planning position. And you'll see that once again, we are getting a incredible return on investment. Aaron will be employed by the Island Institute for the first 2 months of the fiscal year, and then take a month off and then come back to work for the town. And so this is based on 9 months of salary, which is why the figure is so low. This is really a $53,000 salary over the course of 12 months.
Oh, and Brian emailed me and Brandon some questions since he couldn't be here, and one of them was the retirement going up by 102.5%.
That's because we have a
It's a
second
new
employee
position.
in here now. Previously, there was only one employee in here, you got two. And as I explained to Brian, there's not a very clean formula for retirement contributions. Well, there is for us, but you can't see it here. You know, that every employee gets 4% of their salary, and then they can choose to put in additional 4%, and the town will match whatever percent of that they do. And so it's different employee to employee, especially where folks make different amounts. But the other piece too is that if an employee does not take the town's health insurance, we put the monthly cost of that into their retirement account instead. You'll see some other increases, 5302 general supplies, 5306 postage, 5450 legal and professional, and then 5621 printing. And these are all increases that are associated with the development of an open space plan.
Which they, when Brandon asked them for their input on the budget, the committee had been in existence like 3 weeks or something. So these are their best estimates.
This will essentially allow them to put a survey out to residents as well as contract steerage to do some of the GIS mapping for the plan. 5670 is the Conservation Commission. That's up 123% only because it was such a small ask last year. And again, unlike other departments, the Conservation Commission tends to work on a carry forward nature every year, with their work being so project based. You know, essentially carry forwards are for a project that has not yet been finished at the end of the fiscal year, and we expect more work on it. That is typically most of the projects that the Conservation Commission has, so they tend to carry forward remaining funds from year to year.
Now, at our meeting 2 weeks ago that was on Zoom, I think you said that should we proceed with inoculating ash trees at Fort Point Trail, we would not need to add money into this. There's enough money in the Conservation Commission budget
Correct.
for that.
Yes.
Good point.
There's a $5,000 line for grant matching funds. This used to be unclassified. The budget committee thought it made sense to classify expenditures more often when we could. And this is one that felt like it was planning based.
And you all feel like that's enough, 5,000?
Well,
No, but that's with my resilience hat on.
well,
As a budget person, this will, I mean, there's a little money in there.
Oh, that's right.
there's 15,000 in there now that
Okay.
hasn't been touched and is expected to be carried forward into that line. So it's really being funded at $20,000 for just
That is
matching
enough.
funds.
Okay,
That's enough.
yeah, I should have asked for the reserves list.
Well, we don't,
That wouldn't have been in the reserves.
Yeah, that's gonna be a carry forward.
this next line is a new reserve account that is our resilience reserve. And so some of this will be used for grant matching and can be combined with our grant matching line, but it is to keep some money strictly designated for resilience, knowing that the town is going to be undertaking some large projects, both from, you know, even the design grants, you know, have a cost associated with them. So before we even begin any road work. And so, you know, again, this means that if we needed $30,000 in grant matching funds for a resilience project, it would be available, assuming that the grant matching funds were not used elsewhere, but wanting to keep some flexibility in case there was a grant funding opportunity that was not resilience focused, but we still wanted to apply for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the resilience reserve, you're hoping to build up so that,
So we have $500,000 for the $10 million of road work we're gonna have to do in the next 10 years.
Yes, I know with your resilience hat on, you would have preferred that be a bigger number.
I thought, but I can't.
Well, I think that next year, the resilience committee will have time to do the full proposal and,
Well, no.
show some
We'll know.
data, yeah, apply some data to numbers and receive actual estimates, and that will help. And then $25,000 to the public land reserve. Again, I don't have that in front of me, but you all side recently, or maybe that was budget committee, and it was around $75,000. Some money had to come out of that for what we talked about earlier with the conservation funds. And so I think that figure is close to 40,000.
44 comes to mind, I'm not sure. if that's-
Before we add 25 to it.
Right.
So,
And so I believe that your policy states a minimum of $50,000. I was comfortable recommending 25, knowing that even 50 might not go a long way in public land acquisition, even as earnest money, if the town wanted to pursue something, to preserve a waterfront property, for example, for public use. So, I do think that this will be a conversation both for the budget committee and the select board, but we talked about it at the budget committee level, putting some parameters around some of the reserves, okay, we have a minimum parameter for the public land reserve. What's the cap? Do we not let it grow over 100,000? If it's at 100, then we'll start funding other reserves with that. We don't have that yet.
That would be a good goal, I think, to try to bring it up to 100,000. As you point out, this would be a drop in the bucket on any committee.
We just want earnest
problem.
money so that we could have a special town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, which is, I think, an important point, Susie. This reserve is not designed to just outright purchase a piece of property on its own. It's to essentially get our foot in the door.
Yeah.
But at this point, we probably need something closer to 100,000 than that. But we don't have to have it all this year. We'll just get there.
And so this department shows a 48.7 increase. This is largely because we are doubling the staff in what was previously a one staff member department. So, any questions here? You see a 66.7% increase to line 5108, the top line, which is stipend. This is for our 4 fire officers, our chief, our assistant chief, our chief, our deputy chief, and our 2 assistant chiefs. Currently, we just have 1 assistant chief because the Port Clyde station is not active, so we don't have that second assistant. Part of the increase here is the way that it works now is that they all file timesheets for whatever weeks that they are on call, because we always have one of those 4 or one of those 3 on call for an abysmal rate. What is it you remember?
it's like $1.
$1.67 an hour.
And so 2 things contribute to this increase. One is that we're removing that portion of the pay and it's just being lumped into their stipend. And I met with them all about it. They were good with it. Less paperwork to file, and they just know that it is up to them to make sure that the scheduling of on-call coverage is worked out. And so some months, Brian is away hunting in all of November. The other 2 may pick up more coverage and then, work it out with him to make it up at a later time.
But the flat rate of the stipend remains the same.
No, the rate also goes up because it
Because it was ridiculous.
it was really low for what they They do. And so the new structure will be that the chief and the deputy chief will receive a $15,000 stipend per year, and the assistant chief or chiefs would receive $10,000 per year.
For being on call, basically.
And for leading the department and doing,
Right.
so it's all things that the chiefs do. They are on call, they respond to the calls, they lead the meetings, they file the reports and the paperwork, run the trainings,
But don't they get paid something in addition to these amounts? Or,
There are emergency hours that if they respond to a call, that they will get the
hourly,
an hourly rate for.
right? But these are for administrative things and being on call. And then,
Yes, correct. Sorry, that was, I think this is the way I said it.
so it's still, those are still low numbers for emergency personnel, trained people, all the hours they put into their training and everything.
Yeah, they are. I mean, we are, a lot of towns, even towns similar to our own size, they go full time with their firefighters. Either they are combined firefighter and EMS, and they are getting paid to do both, or they'll have a full-time chief. And so, I think the longer we can put that off, the better. But I will say it's harder. It seems that it's harder and harder to recruit volunteers, partially because the pay is not great, but also because, well, a number of reasons.
So the emergency management decreased there, 5115.
Yes, that's right. That's because that is
It's a stipend that
that Ryan receives.
gets.
And the stipend is for $4,000. We had less. It was originally something much higher. Last year I lowered it to $6,500 with the expectation that it would be $4,000 as the stipend, and we left some in there in case there were incurred costs that we were not aware of. Ryan was, relatively new to the position as well. There are not, and so we're just bringing that back down to what we actually pay. 5202 workman's comp, you'll see this is an example of where the budgeted amount increases drastically because their job has far more inherent risk than my job does.
Very small correction. I think it's called workers' comp. For future reference.
It is probably called workers' comp now.
And they did that years ago.
Yeah.
To cover
Right.
everybody.
Uniforms are down just because recruitment is down. And I believe that they're ordering a bunch of new uniforms this year with money that is budgeted. They have that $35,000 mark, as you see. So they're gonna do a bunch of their ordering this year. And will not need as much next year because of it. The 5951, we reduced the fire vehicle reserve down to $100,000. Their reserve is in really good shape. It's been in good shape. There's talks of even eliminating a truck from the service, and so and with our next purchase, purchasing a hybrid truck, essentially a tanker engine. And so both Mike Smith and Ryan, which are the chief and the deputy chief, were comfortable with the $100,000 figure.
Right.
Because that reserve is doing well.
And there's enough to buy the truck in that reserve piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the next truck.
Wow.
Because you already ordered.
Right. And there's enough for the next truck. So.
And then Susie's favorite department.
That's right.
Water holes.
Animal.
Oh, my favorite department.
Your favorite
Yeah.
department.
Skip to the next page.
Yeah. Skip over that.
The only adjustment to animal control
What do you
is
want to talk about?
workers' comp, which surprisingly went down. I would have assumed the opposite, so.
Yeah, right.
Hmm.
It's the insurer that's made these adjustments based on risk and charging based on risk?
Irene has made
Calculated
these
the real
adjustments.
numbers.
But there's a code you can put in.
Right, I assume.
Yep.
All right, Department 6, roads and property management. Did you want to go through the whole budget tonight? Is there a certain place that you want to?
Well, I was wondering about that. I mean, I hate to,
We're gonna go upstairs in the foyer, our official meeting place.
right,
And vote on this budget.
so you're hoping we fit through.
And if you make changes, then we would vote on it.
Okay, so,
But if you cannot go through, I mean, you got most stuff, you got a long list tonight.
yeah,
We're moving at a good
and
clip.
I'm not sure that we need to spend as much time as we have on every line. I think, especially if something's gone down, no explanation is really needed. If it's gone up because of the reshuffling of workers' comp, we now understand
All
that.
right, you got it. I'll fly through it.
We'll go
Uh,
through, see what we can do.
5103, this is the new position I mentioned, so somebody working alongside Steve. Winter Road is dictated by contract, and we have another year in that contract, so 308 is the figure. And then you'll see the large jump is 5701 resurfacing, and again,
Yeah.
going from $100,000 to $400,000. Any questions here?
What are the drops in unemployment?
Irene?
I've calculated the numbers. I've done a better job calculating an accurate number.
That makes things.
Practice making perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and if the software made it challenging, if somebody worked for more than one department,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have to put them in as an employee twice, once for each
So you're
department to
starting
get the
with
numbers
six.
to come out right.
So, this year.
We're not adjusting. We are over budget on salt this year. But we're not going to adjust it for next year. I think that this winter was a bit more of an anomaly than a rule to be followed. And if I'm wrong, we will then adjust it next year. But if you are, the previous years of salt were under budget, and so we've just, it's done a long ones. Solid waste, so again, Tara is the department head for this, and so she really had the say in these recommendations. She was off today, so I told her I would report out on her behalf. You all can follow up with her. There are more questions that I can't answer. She's recommending an additional increase for the it's listed as the department head. This is our transfer station manager. He is essentially supervising the day-to-day operations of the facility, and then two other employees, and was making pretty close to the same amount of the people that he was responsible for supervising or for managing. And so she wanted to see an increase there.
And she did bring that, she did come to the budget committee when she talked
Absolutely.
about that, and they were in support of that.
Sounds reasonable.
We're in support of every line here,
Right.
all the
But
way through.
I just wanted to,
Yep.
make that objective comment.
There's it's $1,500, probably doesn't need to be talked about, but again, I think it's worth noting that the compost supply line is increasing of because the transfer station is rolling out a commercial composting program. Again, compost is a revenue generator for the facility. They sell out of compost every year. And so one of the measures to increase revenue to offset reducing the revenue when we dropped charges for residents for dump fees is to increase the compost program. So I think Greg is participating in it.
Yeah, I think we've donated almost 500 pounds of compost already.
Great.
Yeah, they are now trying to figure out where to make room for it all, because I think they're going to really be able to, close to double the compost production. So,
Right.
and right now I think there's only 2 restaurants and they're already, well ahead of what they've ever done in the past. So it's pretty exciting to see them take that on. Any questions here? General assistance has not changed for years. Social and community services. We'll see an increase to public agencies. This is because this is what public agencies asked for. The breakdown is further down on the page, and you will see the specific ask of each organization. Know that there was an increase to St. George CDC's ask and the Wiley Corner Cemetery's ask, and all of the rest were pretty comparable to previous years. Any questions there?
Was the CDC 15,000 last year?
Yes. And I think 10 the year before that or somewhere around that.
And the library's been 50 for a while.
I'm shocked that they don't ask for more, especially since they don't get any money from the school. This is the only taxpayer dollars the library gets is this 50.
I'm on their finance committee too,
So
so I'm
it's-
watching out for us all
it's-
the time.
it's extraordinary to me, though, that
They're good, they're fine,
that's great. It's
Well
really
supported
wonderful.
library.
yes.
And then there's an increase to veterans graves. We've not increased we pay cemeteries per veterans grave that they have, sorry. And we have not increased that in many years, despite there being more burials and the cost of maintenance going up.
So we probably were not following the law about what we're supposed to support for veterans graves. And we will be with this change.
Correct.
Well, quick correction, the line 16 you have there, the actual American Legion's Veterans Graves, that went down from 75 to 25, right? I was looking at the version we had previously with last year, so that one went down while the other one went up, right?
Yes, that's right. Because they originally had in their request flags and markers, which
Yeah.
the town already
Had ordered and
Mhm.
taken care of.
Sorry, Mike. You couldn't tell you. The major change to this department is in the 5522 building maintenance line. This is to put more money at the Snows Point Lodge. Now that this is just sort of the home for that facility for the time being. So I'll provide an update on our progress at Snows Point Lodge if we get to my town manager's report. Tennis court reserve, well, you don't want to hear about what went down, so never mind.
All good.
Department 11, harbors 5101. This is our harbor master position. I'm recommending an additional raise that is merit based, essentially based on the fact that he is now managing a much larger and busier facility in Port Clyde than he's had to previously. I know that it took far more of his time and far more work than Port Clyde previously had. And he's done a really good job of it. I think that anyone that's used the facility's been really happy when working with Brian. See an increase to fuel because we have a new boat coming this year, and the boat is bigger. And he'll be able to drive it more because he can go out if it's even a little choppy now. And so
Great.
it will likely cost more to run fuel.
Fuel's likely to go up too, already.
Right, that was not taken into consideration
No,
when this budget was built. It's very expensive to have water at Port Clyde Landing, so that's why you see the large increase in the water bill.
Wow.
You know, some of those are just monthly service charges and then,
To the Port Clyde Water District, right?
correct.
Hmm.
And then there are two other areas that show up in this department that allowed us to take on some of these projects this year at a more sustainable rate. We're gonna be making essentially half of our normal debt payment for the Port Clyde Landing property because we had leftover money from the project. That money can only be used to pay back the bond. And so the two options were to reduce the debt payment this year or to increase the debt payment this year and make two payments. And so I thought that with all of the projects going on, it was a better year to reduce it. And then next year you can expect it to return to the $135,000 mark.
Hmm.
And the town boat reserve is dropping to $20,000. There are some things that the boat will need once it's actually here. That's what this covers, as well as putting any away for the future.
Yeah.
Overall, though, this department showed a 34.3% decrease. So part of why we're able to do what we do. Department 12, unclassified. I'm now trying to figure out why we have grant matching in two places.
I like it very much, but I don't remember why we have it in two.
I have a note on unclassified that's a new resiliency reserve account for 15,000.
We put that in planning,
But then that was.
and I think that we were
We're
supposed
gonna
to.
put this in planning too, weren't?
And it is in planning, so
I
maybe
think
this
it
line
needed to be removed.
comes out.
Oh. Even the 5 should move?
Yep,
Yes.
That's what I thought.
yep.
From the-
So this whole line just disappears.
Just cross it out.
Right. Let me just go back to planning there. Right, which is why, yeah, the 5,000 is here. So sorry, it
Yeah.
got moved, but it did not.
And I can't just
But then
count.
we had increased it to 15 from 5. Right? Was
Did-
that what changed?
No, that we have grant matching at 5 and
Resilience.
resilience at 15.
Yeah.
So this line just goes away completely.
Any questions here? We
No.
are keeping the energy efficiency reserve, because there is a lot of work that we hope to do, like replacing some windows, heat pumps where we can, et cetera.
Hmm. Is that really putting away enough for major energy
No.
It's
efficiencies?
not enough,
No.
but it'll make a start.
Yeah.
And we have some in there.
Yeah, there's about
Yeah.
21,000 in there.
Seems
So-
like we should be putting in like 25,000, not 10.
You're preaching to the choir over here, Steve.
Essentially, we can't do it all at once, and so I think that if you all were to set your priorities for the year and the town improving its carbon footprint and becoming more energy efficient was one of them, then what you would see reflected in the budget is a larger line to support that.
Like
Oh,
you said, heat pumps.
This building up to speed because
Once we have a climate action plan
Yeah.
that will
with
be in there,
numbers, I
yeah.
think that then will have more leg to stand on to make.
I really was thinking about this building.
Yeah,
and its
because I think in the summer, all those window air conditioners, I mean, you must have like 10. or something.
17.
Okay, 17, you know, they're,
We'll work on
The
it,
good
Right.
news though is that you're right, it's still using energy, but we are not paying for it in the
Mhm.
summer at least.
about
Because of our
the
solar.
solar.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
that's good.
so,
It
but
doesn't,
again, I know that we are consuming it and ideally we would consume.
We're working on
it.
it. And 4.87% increase under 5.
very good.
Come on.
Yeah.
Um, Department 18. Line 5120, the EMS service is no longer utilizing on-call at-home employees. So if you are on call and working, then you have to be here at the station.
What happened to the supervisor?
Oh, sorry, you're right. The supervisor just got combined down into the non-supervisor. So that is the three positions, 3 full-time positions that are not our chief. They're all hourly. I realized it didn't really make sense to break out the deputy chief, because she's also hourly. Katie's position, our chief's position at 5101 is, salary.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I think that's just about it in there.
That's all we pay in mutual aid? $1,000?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, we're probably, they probably owe us more than we owe them, right? But I just wondered how that all shook out.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't,
Well, I know, like Katie said at the Emergency Services Committee meeting the other night, and you've mentioned that a lot of the community paramedicine work we're doing is outside of St. George, which I don't think most of us realized. So.
yeah, the bulk of it. This year through into March, we've only spent $800 in mutual aid. And so South Thomaston, I believe does not bill us when they cover. That's just sort of been the arrangement. And our billing rate for them is quite low. It's, less than half of what Rockland would bill them. And so that is just sort of the way that arrangement has worked.
Hard to believe that this wasn't a town department.
It is.
Recently.
It is,
When you look at the budget.
yeah.
Revenue.
Well, before you go there, I'm just looking at fuel again and wondering if before we vote on this on May 12th, we should consider a fuel adjustment for all these departments.
We're tracking under for fuel.
Right, but I'm talking about because of the war in Iran, if the reality is we're gonna need, half again as much or 20% or whatever, should we
I know, but
be
what-
realistic and,
What I was trying to provide is context to show that there is already cushion built
okay,
in. So if you would like to adjust the numbers, let me know what you would like done for, research rather than, I don't want to just throw 20% at numbers that already have cushions built into them.
well,
Only
maybe,
because you can see how hard it was to get this to a certain point.
I know, but I also feel like we need to be realistic about what things are gonna cost, and so it's really early to be predicting anything about that. But the town meeting is May 12th, so I think we ought to just be paying attention and maybe, think about that even if it's something that is an adjustment that happens at the meeting, or we let the public know.
I would think you'd have to do that for pretty much everything other than fuel, because fuel costs will increase for any of the, road contractors that might be hired to do road work. And so it's just kind of a domino effect that it might be hard to sort of quantify just fuel.
The other piece about fuel is that the majority of it is from the fuel that we purchase. And so as long as, we have
Contract for it.
but we have the pumps over at the transfer station. And so as long as what goes, like as long as the two balance,
Right,
if it's over budget, it doesn't hurt us from
because we'll have a
made up for
revenue
in the-
line
in the
to
revenue
balance
side.
it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes. What do you all think about that? About whether we should be thinking about, is this cushion enough that's in here?
Well, I think if Brandon thinks it's enough, I'm good to go with that. It's
essentially
not
what I'm
like we
saying is
couldn't
that
find the money if we had to find
If
one.
next year our revenue or our expense for the department is 7,500 when it's budgeted at 5, the revenue will go up by the same amount.
But that's only for like the one category, right? That's not all the fuel used for the whole
That's
town.
right.
That's
That's
just,
not
that's
for,
just
you
that
know,
one
I
line.
think you build a budget on the best
Like all of our
information you
maintenance
have
trucks and,
when you build the budget, which is just
Yeah.
exactly what this is.
Yeah.
And then we will have to adjust.
Right,
No,
I see what you're saying.
That's a
Rebecca.
good point.
My
Yeah.
guess is that, so maybe this is just covering if, I'm not sure, I'll, let me
I think
follow.
we should just think about this, the annual report. I know Tara has a date by which this gets printed and sent, in the annual report for when we're gonna vote at the town meeting. Even in a worst case scenario, we could make a proposed change to the budget at the town meeting if we had to. And, and I know we also have some flexibility under state law in the town charter about how much we could go over.
Yep.
On fuel if we had to, but
Or any one line.
yeah, so I guess I'm just hoping that you can think about this, and if before sort of the last minute for printing, and then later, just come back if you think
I will come back,
to be
I will come
responsible
back next week with something, or in 2 weeks.
next meeting.
Yeah, next
Okay.
week.
even if you look at futures oil prices and things, it's so volatile right now that you
Yeah.
could run a number and say we need to go up 200% to cover the next year. But I think I agree with Susie. I think we based this budget discussion on the information we had at hand when we were discussing and looking at the future.
Right. Otherwise, we'd be doing it for
Yeah, we'd
every
have to do it.
hypothetical, tariffs, all the unknowns and.
Wages and different things that are all going to be impacted.
And you wouldn't finalize your budget till the night before the.
Right.
the
Yeah.
town meeting.
And then it would
And
be
then
gone the
something would
next, the very
change
next
then.
year.
Yeah, then you'd have an addendum.
We'd have a new tweet.
Which would be wrong. I
I
think
mean, all
Probably
of,
right,
all of
Jane?
that is true, but I still think
Yeah.
that if it turns out that as of the town meeting, it's foreseeable that we should make a responsible adjustment, then we should be thinking.
We'll have better we'll have a longer span of
Yeah.
time to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Revenue, there are no major changes. We are expecting a decrease in our tree growth and our homestead reimbursement. Again, this is because we are so far below the I'm forgetting the term right now.
Our state valuation is.
Yeah, our certified ratio there is at like 66% of where the state thinks that we should be. And so when you drop below 70, they start withholding some of these reimbursement programs. But overall, our revenue is still up based on Tara doing some work to a bit more accurately forecast or project some of this from still a conservative manner.
Mhm.
You know, we've under budgeted our building permits for, and we haven't budgeted anything for plumbing permits and under budgeted building permits for years. We're leaving that flat because Terry has suggested that building trends seem to be slowing, and so we're not gonna increase there, even though it typically comes in much higher. Any questions overall about any department, any budget projects?
Really like the addition of the two new positions. I think that's just gonna make the town run more smoothly and
I think that they're both really, capacity expanding as well, so. I think
it's
it's,
almost shocking that we have a one person public works department.
Right, for,
For a town of our size.
yeah,
You're building one gradually anyway.
don't say that.
No, okay. Don't let that get out. Yeah.
people have any other questions about the proposed budget?
I had seen in one of the departments, it was called a web host, and I was wondering who or what that is.
Is
I
that
can't
our,
remember which department it was in.
is that app
Well, that was the website for
The
the
web
town.
host?
I bet it is. If it's,
Yeah.
is it like $9,000?
It's blended in with some other money. I think it's either
Oh,
one or
sorry.
three.
You saw it in the notes, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's part of the software cost of the department, and that's because there is an annual fee to have our website, and
Right.
that is built in there now.
Although I have to say, I feel like having been on that little group that looked at different websites and costs, I feel like this website is, it's great that we have that integrated ability to send out, notifications and alerts and I know Bill Batty says it's much easier to upload information onto it than it used to be. So I feel like that's been a big improvement over what we had. So do we now vote to approve the proposed budget? Is that?
Yes, I think technically at this moment, you only have my recommendation because the budget committee has not.
You need to
formally-
vote
Well,
first before we vote.
We could pause for 2 minutes or you can go and come
We
back.
don't have to meet in the 4 a.m.
Right, you can.
I have the minutes from this meeting right here, Krista. And it says the committee met to approve the town manager's proposed budget for 2026-27 as presented to the select board. The vote was yes votes. Let me see hands.
So moved.
So moved. Okay. And so 5. Anybody vote against? 0. The end.
Well, thank you. So we have the budget committee's approval of this budget that the town manager put together with his department heads and staff.
It's the quickest budget meeting I've ever seen.
Well, the budget committees have gotten, I think, much longer, so that's why.
Put in the hours.
Lots of hours. Good teamwork.
We like a nice tight meeting.
So do we have any other further discussion, or does somebody want to make a motion that we approve the proposed budget?
I'll make that motion that we approve the
I'll second that.
entire budget.
All in favor? That's 4. All right, well, thank you, everybody, I only have a notion of how much work goes into doing it with your team, and so thank you, Brandon, and everybody who works with you and the budget committee, because it's really important to have you spend the time that you do before it comes here. Thank you. So, you guys can go if you want, you can stay here. We could consider one item, so then Brett could
I was
leave,
just gonna ask.
which is, Brandon, you wanna?
I actually received the renewal for the Causeways liquor license back in December and missed it, and so.
Oh, you found the original one?
Yes, and so I'm bringing it, well, no, I'm taking your word for it, but or their words, but
Thank you so much.
and so they are up for a renewal. They do not need a public hearing, they'll be on those 5 years. But just need your approval.
And you have.
I've had no complaint.
Okay,
I guess,
I'll make a motion that we approve the, Causeways liquor license.
Okay.
All in favor? That's 4. All right, and
you.
if you send it, we'll sign it now instead of forgetting.
No, I have to.
Oh, you just, okay, great. It's not like the old days now.
It was easier when they.
Thanks, Greg.
So, and we are also following up tonight on the, personnel policy change that we discussed 2 weeks ago, to replace section 2.03 in the personnel policy handbook about the town employment of relatives. And we did vote on this last time, but it is required that there's been 2 weeks from the first time we talked about a proposed. There's not a select board policy to when we finalize it, and I know we took a vote last time and it was 4-1. If anybody has.
Well, part of that time is to allow,
Per public comment
So I
or
would-
input.
I would invite that. if
Yes,
there
all
was
right. Is there any public comment or information people want to provide regarding the proposed change in the select board policy about the employment of relatives? No. All right, well, then if that's the case, I think we'll just go with the vote that we had last time, which was 4-1 with Tammy voting against. And then this is now the town's policy, and Tara can replace it in personnel policy manual. And Ryan Colson has resigned from the Emergency Services Committee. If you saw something from me before about elevating a different person to a full member, at their meeting, the committee realized that Peggy Williamson, who's an alternate now, had seniority and she should be the one that gets elevated. So I'll nominate that Peggy be elevated to a full Emergency Services Committee member.
Favor, whatever.
All right,
Let's go.
all in favor, that's 4. Right, and I just wanted to let everybody know that, I did update the entire select board policy manual. You know, we've been updating individual policies every year, but so as of, the end of February, it's uploaded with all the current policies.
Great. So the.
Yes.
Laborious process.
It was, I'm glad I am done with it. We'll wait for Wendy to come back to talk about, I don't know if the two of you have had a chance to look at the open space definition and the vision statement that that committee sent to us. But I do want to have some discussion about that.
I think it's great that they brought this to us.
Yes,
They're definitely working hard.
right.
The journalist in me wants to cut out a lot of the extra words, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not, it's nothing terrible.
Oh, yeah,
Just
right.
like edit it down to a more concise statement.
We're just taking a minute to look at the open space. So,
We took a bunch of votes while you were gone. We'll find out later.
The budget,
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
what was that?
Put your fired moment.
Oh,
We were evaluating him and then he walks into the room and he says, "You're fired."
I'm so bad.
It was hilarious.
no, I was,
We need humor,
I was,
especially now.
that's for sure.
we do need to put on our calendar when we
Oh, your
do
sensational shoes you got there.
Brandon.
Drama on your foot.
Flattery.
So I'm inviting comment and input about the open space committee's draft definition of open space. I guess we could talk about that first and then their vision statement. Do people have thoughts about the definition of open space?
I think it seemed fine. I think it seemed well thought out. I don't have any changes to it.
Tammy, did you have any thoughts?
I thought they did a lot of work in a short amount of time. I was impressed.
They have, yeah.
One question that I have, I don't know if I'm.
Yes, your input is
Uh,
valuable.
Is in the bullet, land with scenic views and vistas, that bullet does not include access to scenic views and vistas, and so Aaron, maybe you can answer, does this just include anywhere that could be considered scenic, whether or not there is public access?
Right, yeah. It's definitely a major point that open space does not have to have public access for it to be open space. So some do and some don't.
My one worry, which I've shared with Aaron, what I would hate to see as a byproduct of this, because I don't think is the intent of the plan, is that we would receive a large influx of applications into the state's open space tax relief program, which is essentially it allows you to put property in open space if there's not public access, even if there's not public access, and can reduce in times up to 80% of the tax commitment. The troubling part with it is that the program is a bit vague. The tree growth program is very black and white. You have to have a forester come in and put together a management plan, and so I guess part of that concern comes from Jackie, our assessor, just sort of cautioning that is it's a very vague program where she has to make decisions at sort of her own discretion. And
So I think there are two things here. One is the definition of open space.
Right.
And I think there's nothing wrong with this definition or with it including spaces that don't have public access. I think, to me, the bigger question is what you're raising, which is to what extent does the community have a shared value of preserving everything that's open space? So I'm fine with saying that scenic views are open space.
correct, yeah,
But
I
then-
sort of led into it.
Yeah, the next and more challenging question is, how much are we gonna do to conserve and preserve all these different things that could be open space? And I guess my issue with the vision statement is that I had envisioned this committee's survey along with the surveys that have been done related to the comprehensive plan, that would help guide the select board, and the Conservation Commission, whatever groups are going to be involved in this preservation, in figuring out like how much does this matter to people and what are we willing to spend? Like here we were talking earlier about having money in the budget to buy, say, an oceanfront piece of property, or how much do we want to encourage people to preserve non-accessible open space?
Did the committee get to a point of putting a target goal for percent of land in conservation?
No,
That,
that won't
no,
be done if it's done at all, it won't be done for months and months after the survey and other community.
Right.
they're still pretty early in the whole.
Yeah, I mean,
Scheme of
I
things.
guess I feel like, we provided the committee with a charge, which was to figure out how much, the community wants to do, because it's no more the five of us than the however many of our people are on that committee that get to decide. It's the community as a whole that decides. And so, I'm eager for them to do their community engagement and their surveys and hear from people. How
There is a
much do we
draft
care
survey.
about just views or,
There is a draft survey, which I guess isn't in front of us now.
right,
But they've got one, so.
right.
I could-
That plan, does it have a minimum in acreage? You know, that you're saying there's this nebulous program for open space, which might affect our tax base. Does it have a minimum amount of?
No, I don't believe so.
No,
No.
that's a tax benefit that people can get, just like tree growth.
Right, but it has no acreage. It has to have a minimum of, 5 acres or something. No.
I think it does have a minimum. Do you know, Aaron? Did you guys talk about that?
I'm looking at the table on the comp plan right now, I'm not sure. No minimum acreage, minimum and setback areas for, okay, yeah, that's not important, yeah, no minimum acreage.
No.
Wow.
So, now, I mean, one thing I know, like with tree growth areas, and Brandon said that is the same for open space designated areas. Let's say you designate something as a tree growth area, and then 10 years later, you want to build something there and you want to take it out of tree growth. You have to pay back the taxes that you,
Right, right.
the benefit that you
Right, that you
had because you
saved
changed
over.
your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
Right, but my concern comes more from, somebody's got. This is gonna show up in places where people don't want neighbors anyway, right? If you've got, 25 acres on the water, and you bought those 25 acres so that you wouldn't have neighbors right on top of you, then development is not really a concern for the town. And if there's no public access, I think development would actually be wanted by the town, right? That's more taxes that it would lower the overall burden for individuals because there would be a new home that's taxed at a higher rate.
well, some people would value that higher and some people would value open space higher. And that's the whole question.
That's what I was trying to get at from the definition, because, I mean, you could argue that just about every corner of this town is scenic. And then
Well, not every
I
corner.
said just about.
That'd be great.
And then, does this include, from the water, and so I assume it does. Is that right, Aaron?
Does it
the view from the water as opposed to all from a road or something.
I don't think we defined it as water, did we? We just said view.
Really say that water is.
But you mean
Yeah,
from the
boat,
water,
from the
if
water.
you're in a boat.
Yeah. Oh, like what you're looking at? is
Yeah.
that-
Right.
I mean. If it's a village, then yeah, I guess that is nebulous, because if it's a village, it might be scenic, but it's not really open space.
Well, and my point is that if it's at the end of a private road that the public doesn't have access to, then there's no preservation of scenic views or vistas because the public can't see them unless they're from a
In a
boat.
boat.
And so that's sort of where my curiosity is. I think if that was defined, then that would be, helpful when we had to navigate any applications that came in for the tax program.
But I also feel like it's not this committee's responsibility to deal with if the state definition of an open space designation, like tree growth designation, is nebulous and would be challenging for Jackie to figure out. That's not our fault. That's not the open space committee's fault.
Right.
That's the legislature.
But I don't know why we wouldn't try to be, if a result of this committee is going to be encouraging enrolling in that program, I don't know why we wouldn't want to be prepared for what's going to
Be
come.
proactive
Yeah.
in figuring this
Well,
out.
and that's why I guess I'm hung up not on the definition, which I have no problem with the definition. I'm hung up with, where it says we're committed to, where did it say? Saying in this vision statement, we're committed to protecting open spaces that define blah, blah, blah. And that 10 years from now, we will definitely have more stuff conserved. And I understand that a lot of people would agree with this, but I'm not sure that everybody would agree with this, which is kind of what I was hoping we would learn more about from the survey.
And we did discuss a lot whether we wanted to do a vision statement before or after surveys, and we decided before as a group because people felt that they wanted some sort of direction as they start the plan, with the knowledge that we would most likely edit this after we do that.
But open space in the survey is not being weighed against other priorities in town. Is that correct?
Correct, those questions were taken out.
Yeah,
Don't we
so-
have enough from the comp plan then? Because the comp plan did
In
survey
terms of
people.
what people prioritize there.
Right.
No, in
so-
terms of how people feel about conservation, because the comp
Right.
plan didn't prioritize any of it against each other.
Yeah.
And so,
So this is also based on that, yes.
yeah, the select board hasn't heard this discussion that Brandon raised and I've raised. So the open space committee did provide me with their draft of the survey. And I had suggested that there be a question that said something like, housing is something that matters a lot to people. We learned that during the comp plan survey. And open space is also something that's important. And try to get people to tell us how we should navigate those two things that might be in tension with each other. But the committee did not want to ask that question.
I think it's really hard to tease that out, though. I mean, what would you ask them to rank
Well,
in
that,
priority?
that was what they did, right? They, in their draft, they had a ranking.
Right,
Is that still in there? Did they take that out?
that was taken out.
No, even a ranking is so imprecise. I don't know.
Remember, right now, we don't have any data that would show priority over anything. It's just, do you think this is a good idea? And well, in a town with limited resources and even more limited actual land, there needs to be some priority. There's only so much room for anything that might be a good idea.
Can you put that in the vision statement, like given limited land? I mean, can you add some of those facts to the vision statement?
Well, I guess one option, we could suggest that these, if they don't want to include it in the survey, which I would hope that they would, that at least those things are discussed when they have a public engagement meeting.
Hmm.
You know, that
Which
the town leaders are trying to get guidance, you know.
Hmm.
This is a committee that's advisory to the select board.
Mhm.
And as we draft budgets and as we work on ordinance changes, you know, we're looking for help about, you know, what matters most to people who live here. And I'm sure most people would say a balance, you know. You want some more housing built in some places, and then you want beautiful views and open space in other places. But how do you ever nail it down if we don't ask?
I think that's part of why I keep asking for a target as well.
You mean a percentage, like a percentage?
Well, meaning the state has already told us that they, 30% of.
The entire state is the
Right.
goal by
And so I can't
2030.
imagine our target would exceed that.
No,
And so, what do we think is appropriate, given the fact that we're a small peninsula?
Right.
I just think it would help with some of these like priority pieces, but what has been the pushback on setting a target?
I don't know that there's been a pushback so much as it just hasn't been discussed. But regarding the pushback to discussing other priorities in addition to open space, I think the committee feels that it is their responsibility to only work on open space and progress open space. So I think if you want them to think about other topics, that should come directly from the select board, if you can do that, to tell them what to do.
I don't think the ask is for them to take on other topics. I think the ask is for them to pursue how we most responsibly look at our open space in relation to the whole climate of town, right? Like if the goal was to just expand open space, to what, 50% of land in town, like there has to be some sort of parameters around it for any effort, if the goal was to just, if the goal of the EMS committee or emergency services committee was to just expand emergency services in town, all of a sudden we'd have $5 million of full-time fire departments and EMS, like I don't know that you can just separate it out.
Can you set an aspirational goal that's pretty low? And so that the tension created is fairly small, say the tension with housing. And hey, great, maybe we're gonna exceed that. But in order to get you past that moment, I don't know, 10% or something of town land or.
What are we at now? Do you know? 7% that's formally conserved?
It's, I think, 9.
9%.
So maybe 10% is too low,
But
but
it's
Or maybe it means maybe not.
okay.
I don't,
Get past this
Yeah, so
issue
like
that.
Brandon thinks the percentage goal should be almost like a cap kind of as well as a goal. Is that
clearly Brandon is listening to people
Mm.
in his age group who are very concerned about the cost of housing.
Mhm. Well, there
and-
should be a bit of a cap because then we would be less likely to take on land that did not so neatly like fit the like direct goals of the committee. Without a cap, if somebody's like, hey, I'd love to put these 80 acres on Kinney Woods Road into permanent conservation. Well, actually, that would put us over our cap, and that could be a great spot for housing because it's not eliminating, but there's no reason to turn that down if our only goal is to expand open space.
Can I make a comment?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Sorry, Bob raised his hand.
Oh,
I had my
sorry.
back to him, so.
Yeah. I'm here in San Diego County in California, and California is probably the state who's heaviest on conservation, probably of anybody. But one of the things they do here is they identify land that's unbuildable or difficult to build, and that takes a top priority for conservation. So that's where most of the open space here is usually hard to build or unbuildable land. That's the first take at it. And then, of course, we have the same situation here, affordable housing, and housing is a big deal. So any land that's prime buildable land, that's usually at a much less priority for conservation.
Well, I think that those are really good points because we do have
You
a
have
lot
marshes, you have wetlands, you have, I mean,
ledge.
yes, you have ledge. I mean, you have some unbuildable land there. I know I grew up there. So I think when you look at conservation, I don't think you want to take, like gentleman was saying, I think he had a great point. Here's 80 acres. Well, this could be prime building. I don't, that you might want to put that, grade it as less desirable for conservation and more desirable for building, because it is in if buildable land, that's where you're going to come with the conflict, right? With the conservation
Right.
versus housing. So why don't identify the unbuildable land or hard to build land like the marshes and the wetlands and the ledge and all those areas as more prime. So it's like you have like a grading system. That's just a little bit of how they do it here.
I don't, yeah, has that been an avenue that the committee has, I know it's still early, but
Not specifically, but I have thought about that as like a good map that Stu could make, so that's definitely a great idea, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the points that Bob just made, again, it's I don't really understand how this committee could decline to consider property that is developable. I mean, yes, open space matters to everybody who lives here, but the point being not just necessarily everywhere. Like the goal is to preserve as much open space as possible, no matter what. That's not the goal, no matter what.
Well, it wouldn't be realistic. It wouldn't happen anyway.
Right, but like,
no, that's, I think what they're sort of saying there, they feel that their charge is to just expand open space.
so I think that's where we need, if this group is in agreement that needs to be factored in, that we do need to have some parts of town that we are hoping will be developed for housing. I mean, we have the growth management areas, and one of those, on Route 73 is sort of in the works. But I would assume that there are other tracts of land. We talked about it with English Town Road, that there were places that maybe people were gonna wanna build.
Well, even if some of that land that you're looking at is to be developed, if you have like an 80 acres, well, I'm sure out of that 80 acres, there's probably 20 acres that not buildable, right? So you could integrate,
Yes,
have
and
master plan, you integrate the
in their,
building with the, yeah.
yeah, that is in their vision statement, that development is guided to protect areas that have, well, this says natural features or whatever, but I think you could incorporate that. I think this is the only reference to development, but
I would ask for a specific request from the select board probably, because I feel like I've tried to bring up these things frequently and they don't feel that it's their job to consider it, and they don't think that open space has to be in conflict with housing, even though I've tried to.
Well, I don't think that it has to be, but
Right.
it can be.
Right.
And
It has
so,
to be if the goal is to only expand open space.
Yes.
well, Steve is the select board liaison and
Aaron's doing a great job.
I know, but
That's fine.
I'm thinking that,
I can attend this week's meeting.
I think it would be helpful. I feel like it's too soon in the process for them to pin anything down or for us to pin them down more than development will happen. Development is needed in some areas, and we don't want them to ignore those realities as they work on their plan. Does that sound reasonable?
Aaron, you can say if you don't agree with this, but I think this committee is open to suggestions, direction from the select board. I feel like it's kind of amorphous, as they're like, where we go from here kind of thing. And so I think there's a lot of goodwill on the committee, and I don't think they would, that they're trying to work it out.
Well,
This is a draft.
Except that I specifically wanted them to include a question that kind of accommodated this, and they said they're not gonna do that.
I think that came from not wanting to bring in too many other issues, that they figure their charge is to look at open space and not, housing, the affordability of housing.
Right, it's not their job to work on affordable housing, yes.
When they put out the survey, I just wonder if there could be like an introductory sentence that says, here are these questions. As you think about them and give your answers, think about the need for housing in St. George and think about the need to retain a tax base that makes it affordable for everybody. So there's no specific question about which is your favorite, but just not pie in the sky about open space, but pie in the medium sky with, just some parameters around it that think about also if we put 30% of town in open space and we get they get a big tax cut, then everybody else's property taxes go up to make up the whole.
Yeah. It
But
may
if
be
there
added,
was a little
the committee-
introductory sentence
the
instead
committee
of
could
question.
could make a suggestion that any development include looking at open space as part of that development, depending how big it is, right? To integrate development with open space versus having one or the other in some areas.
They did list that piece. I'm sorry, I'm not sharing the document that's in front of us, but.
So I feel like, does this feel like good input to take back to them as they,
It does, but it doesn't necessarily feel new. I think if Brandon came, it would go a long way because he's very persuasive.
I will be there Wednesday.
Okay, I will not, so.
That's coming.
well, and Steve was here and he felt like development was already sort of understood and not necessarily in conflict with their goals. So I think we just need to tease that out, and as long as the plan is to get community engagement and input, and there will be some opportunity for this to bubble up, I think.
I think Brandon makes some good points, and that they need to hear that.
Right.
I also just was gonna say, in studies over the years of towns that have land trusts or conserve land, generally it hasn't hurt them. In fact, those towns do better than towns that don't do it. So it's not like you have to be afraid of conserved land in your town.
Oh, I don't think
Right.
that anybody could ever accuse St. George of being afraid of conserved land at this point. Like our conservation commission does incredible work.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's also, I'm just pointing out that it doesn't harm the tax base to have conserved land.
Well,
I mean, at some point it could,
it
at some
could.
point,
So-
but yeah.
all right, well, you'll go there and you will share this feedback with them. And then I do, before we adjourn, want to ask people what their thoughts were about this draft email to the Maine Municipal Association that I shared with you all. This issue about the possible use of holding tanks has come up in some properties in town.
I'm always going to be against holding tanks, and I'll just explain my background that in my 40 years as an environmental attorney, I saw holding tanks not properly pumped. The guy forgot to hook the hose in and it spewed everywhere. A mobile home park had sewage flowing from a tank into somebody's private home. So I've seen numerous situations, and you're not going to convince me that human beings don't make mistakes like this. And there was a reason that holding tanks are not permitted and approved that often, because they have the possibility of leaking. And so I feel like in terms of pursuing housing, there's all these health and safety regulations, ordinances, laws that are being set aside in terms of the pursuit of more housing.
Mhm.
And I think it's really short-sighted. Like, do we want more housing, but we want sewage on the ground? And I know that sounds ridiculous to say that, but that's what can happen. And those regulations, I mean, there are lots of things in terms of dealing with septic waste that are preferable to tanks. Now, if there's not a lot of land, some of them cannot be done, but maybe that's the answer. I don't like all these things that we're throwing out, all these environmental regulations, because we're desperate for housing. And are we thinking about the health of our citizens, the safety of our citizens, water quality? And I just think, I don't care what MMA says, they're not septic engineers. I just think we always have to keep that in mind in terms of these regulations were put in place for a purpose. So
Right,
there's my
and I
soapbox.
totally agree with all of that.
Good night.
The only point of this really was to, because they are looking at amendments to LD 1829 and the different housing laws they've passed. And the fact that between 50 and 70% of people who live in Maine do not connect to a sewer system. And therefore, all these laws they passed mean nothing to towns like St. George. They're not helping us one bit with building more affordable housing here. That
A little bit.
Well,
A little, but
okay, but even the ADU stuff, you know, currently you have to hook into your existing septic or expand your existing
right.
septic. And, you know, maybe that's where it's going to come out. But essentially, the question for the legislature is really stop and think, are there new technologies? Are there any changes to the current septic laws that make sense? Like if you're gonna have a little ADU on somebody's property, would that be a reasonable holding tank place or not? And if the answer is, they may come back and say no for the reasons you said.
I feel like we're seeing it in progress right now, that they're tossing all these regulations aside in terms of producing more housing. And I think it's so short-sighted. I mean, in 10 years, are we going to have a contaminated town because we said, oh, well, we're not going to force them to expand their septic system or have, you know, or have a sand mound or something. I just really feel like we need to stick to our guns and say, these regulations were put in place to protect the health and safety of the residents and water quality. And if you're going to figure out housing, you've got to include that. I remain against holding tanks.
Let me just make a comment. I'm in
Sure.
real estate. I'm in real estate here. I understand what she's saying about the water quality and things of that nature, but I think the holding tanks, number one, are going to be pretty much any for properties that cannot have a septic system or not able to. So that's number one. So I don't think you're going to see this huge amount of holding tanks. But the other thing is the technology has come quite a ways from the old days. And the new modern technology is much better. Now, will it never be an accident? No, that's not going to happen. But I know a lot of septic systems that go bad too and affect water quality in the neighbors' lands also. So we're never going to have a perfect system, but I think I agree with the part, if you're going to use holding tanks, it be regulated and not something that's going to be so widespread that it could be a problem.
Well, the proposed email that you haven't seen is just to ask, the Maine Municipal Association is providing legislative input to the committee at the legislature that's working on this. And it was just basically to ask them to look at what they've had for septic regulations for places that don't have sewer systems, and think about whether new technologies or anything else should change, the current laws where they're talking about increasing housing.
Well, I think the big change in the law would be right now, well, I know in town of St. George, you can't have a holding tank as your initial system.
Right.
Right.
That's,
So, I mean, I think for us, that would be the major thing,
but
but
that's the state law. That isn't even,
yeah, it's
this
based
is
on the
all
state.
about state law.
Yeah.
We're not talking about making new rules for St. George. We're just,
Well, I think Wendy's argument is that even if the state were to change that law, that St. George should.
she wouldn't want to go along with that,
Correct.
which would be another
Yeah.
conversation. But it doesn't look like the legislature has given any consideration to the changes in technology or, whether it would make sense to accommodate some of this stuff. Tammy?
Yeah, I mean, I would think it'd be up to the Maine, I forget what department it is, that they have that regulates this, that they have all the engineers and they have all
Right.
that information to say, hey, the technology is such that, we feel this is pretty safe and,
Or
we're
not, right.
Yeah, or not.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's what this email does, is asks the legislature to talk to all those people and think about, should they be changing some of these rules or not?
Right. However, I know there's some small parcels of land around St. George where this difference between putting and I'm sure I talk about 5-bedroom house with a holding tank. A smaller house could go on a lot, if they do allow a holding tank. So,
Right.
I mean, I think it could make a difference, and I'm for it. I'm going to speak for it if the technology is there, and what I've seen, they've come quite a ways. I'm not an expert, so if the technology is there, say, hey, yeah, these things are a lot better than they were 20 years ago, and we feel comfortable doing this for, smaller dwellings, because that's what we're heading towards in the whole country is smaller dwellings. Then I would be for it.
What do you think, Tammy?
Well, Wendy said everything that I was gonna say about it, and I agree with Wendy. I don't think we should jump the gun and just put everything aside just to have affordable housing in town, and workforce housing, or whatever they're calling it now. Just think it's gonna create an environmental mess.
What do you think, Steve?
About this or about the whole issue?
Well, about like if we were, with only 4 of us,
Yeah,
even if you agreed with me that we should send this, it would go down.
yes, right.
So that But, you know, that's where we
I
are.
do think this is safe. I mean, if we won't send it, but obviously, but I would be okay with it because I don't think we're
We
we're
would just be
committing
asking them
ourselves to
to look
anything in
at it.
particular other than saying study it.
Yeah.
Frankly, I would want the state looking at it rather than us making it at a local level.
Oh, right. We're not in a position.
Absolutely.
I just, one
Absolutely.
quick little anecdote is that I had to replace a failing septic system, which had the old steel tank rusting out at my cottage. And that had been there for probably 50 years, 70, I don't know how long, maybe longer. At least it wasn't straight pipe, the way I remember cottages when I was a kid, straight piping into the sea. But the technology was so good that they could use a very small area of my property on this very tiny lot where I am and put in a full, septic system that's designed for the size of the cottage, which is pretty small,
Mhm.
but it's it's a 1 bedroom cottage. But anyway,
Was it a holding tank or a
no,
traditional
it's a
system?
traditional system, but it's with the latest modern, much smaller configuration. I don't know the technical terms for it, but that wouldn't have been available 10 years ago. That
Right.
kind of thing. So there are things you can do.
Yeah, even with better technology though, it doesn't change what the state requires for a minimum lot size for
Right.
septic capacity.
Yeah, I mean, mine had to be all approved with it.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and it costs a lot too. But anyway. that's
Well,
story.
maybe given where we are, I'll just withdraw this motion and we'll think about this as something if, you know, if
Chaining myself to a septic system somewhere.
It sounds like there's a lot of discussion going on within the towns and at the state level, and Rockport's looking at it.
right.
A lot of towns are looking at this.
So
It
maybe,
sounds like you all should just bring it up when Brian's back too.
yeah, I mean, we can do that when
If
he's
it's
here.
due right now.
And, and given what the legislature's doing right now, it may be that either someone else will bring this up or it'll be too late for this legislative session. And,
Well, I mean, in some towns that have dealt with this, not in Maine, but in other states, they started to talk about a wastewater treatment plant that hooked everybody up.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, but I'm saying that
It'd be more than our total town budget.
well, I know, but they're trying to figure out with big grants.
right.
Yeah. So,
Oh, I mean, that would
yeah.
be the best thing. of
right,
all.
because of the tension between what are we gonna do with all this waste? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right, well, so I'm withdrawing that motion and we're gonna adjourn. And was there anything you had in your town manager's report? that
Nothing
Can't
urgent.
wait.
No, it can all
Okay.
wait.
Appreciate your comments.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll be at a live meeting in July.
So,
Thank you.